Welcome. My channel is first and foremost a photography channel. Today, though, I am way off topic. Please forgive me. Some of you have asked me how I afford to have the photography hobby that I do and to have all the nice cameras I have. And the short answer is I'm a data analyst and I help billion-dollar companies, and my hourly rate, if you need to know what it is, you can't afford me. And today I have a bone to pick with the sports team that I follow, the Sacramento Kings, and right, not just the organization, but also the fans and the media around it. Right, a lot of times, right, stupidity exist throughout the entire community and culture, and it's how they can go 20 years and remain in mediocrity. And hopefully I can show them some numbers that might open their minds to right, a different possible future that they're imagining. So these are stats from last season. I've sorted the players by plus minus. There are three outliers on the good side: Sabonis, Monk, and DeRozan. Ellis is right there. Murray is, well, not right there, but down in fourth and fifth spot, Ellis and Murray. Okay, and then on the other end, right, there are some down in the cellar, right? Jake is off the team. Isaac Jones, he was a rookie development player. Herter is off the team. Trey Lyles is off the team. Alex Lynn is off the team. But down here, second to the bottom, is Zach LaVine, who makes the most money and will be a starter this upcoming season. What's that about? He is going to be starting instead of Malik Monk. Now, when we go over here, we have wins and losses from last season, and I'm doing wins minus losses. So you can see Malik Monk won 36 games, 29 losses. He is plus 7 on a team that was under 500. He is a big time outlier on the positive side. Down here at the bottom, you have Colby Jones, Keegan Murray, and Zach LaVine. Okay. Right. You can see where I'm going. I'm frustrated that Malik Monk once again is going to be moved to the bench, and Zach LaVine is going to be starting in his spot. Okay, on this page, I have every starting lineup from last season. There was a group that won 4, they lost none. They were undefeated. DeRozan, Ellis, Monk, Murray, Sabonis. Now, if you take out Monk and you add LaVine, right, that takes you to a 5-man group that's at the very bottom of the list, right? DeRozan, Ellis, LaVine, Murray, Sabonis. They were 3 wins, 6 losses. That's a net of -3. Back up to the top of the list where we see the best net wins. Monk is in Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, Group 4. Okay. Ellis and Monk, right, they pair together so well, right? Malik is undersized, even as a guard, or even as a point guard, he's a little undersized. He's under 6'3", right? In terms of physical stature, he's more like Steve Nash and Steph Curry than, right, SGA, right? He is a small guard. He pairs best with somebody like a Keon Ellis, who has length, who's a good defender. Monk and Ellis started together 7 times last season. They were 7-0. They beat the Sixers, the Grizzlies, the Warriors, the Heat, the Celtics, the Timberwolves, and the Cavs. Okay. Interestingly, is DeRozan was also part of all of those groups. Here we see 4-man groups and sorted by plus minus. The top 3 groups, right? DeRozan, Sabonis, Monk, Ellis. DeRozan, Sabonis, Monk, Murray. DeRozan, Monk, Murray, Ellis, right? It's the Those same characters permutated. So, right, that's, I don't want to say totally conclusive, but right, the numbers point to Malik being a very good starter, especially paired with Ellis. This season rolls around and neither Malik or Ellis are starting. They're both coming off the bench. Now, to a lot of fans, right, they think back to the season and they feel like Malik didn't really excel as a starter for some reason, even though that's not what the numbers say. I want to look at his game logs real quick. So he comes off starting. This is like they lose a head coach. Doug Christie's the coach now. And they win 10 of 11 games, including a 7-game stretch. Okay. This big column here that I've highlighted, those are his points, right? Look through there. He was only in single digits one time. Okay. His assist column, he was 5 or more assists in almost every game, right? Including a 12 assist game and a bunch where he had 8 or 9. Now, also in this stretch, they lose Fox. They add Levine. It's sort of an awkward time where they don't have any practices and they're traveling and they're trying to figure out how to play together in games just by like talking some things out in the hotel. So you're adding a new piece, which Levine was, in my mind, was a terrible pickup because he's basically just like a taller version of Malik who can't break down people as well and may actually be a worse defender even though he has more size. And then you get into this stretch where Malik starts dealing with a foot issue, which is clearly impacting his shot. He takes some time off. He comes back, and then he starts to have a really good stretch. He has maybe his 3 best games in a row right here, a win against Memphis and Cleveland. He had 28 points, 22 points, 34 points, right? 7 assists, 8 assists, 5 assists. But he gets sick. And he misses 3 more games. He comes back, and that's basically it. His opportunity as a starter is done. Ellis gets moved into the starting lineup, and Malik is back into the 6-man role, right? And a lot of this just has to do with, right, you sort of need Ellis in the starting lineup, and then all of a sudden, for defense, right, and then all of a sudden it's like, how do you have Levine, DeMar, and Malik? And so, Malik loses out on that because of age and prestige and contract and all those types of things. And so then he's back into the 6-man role. All right. I'm going to back way up and, right, I watched every single one of Malik's games in the NBA, many of them twice. I followed him through his Hornets career, his time with the Charlotte Hornets. And I'm going to tell you my take on his career, and it's going to be different than what you've heard, right? Okay, his rookie season, if you look at his stats, this is per 36, everything actually looks pretty good, with the exception of his 2-point percentage, and consequently his effective field goal percentage. And right, the strikes against him his rookie season he is undersized, he was thin, he's athletic, but he sometimes uses his athleticism to sort of make an acrobatic play instead of absorbing contact against a physical interior defense, right? So his rookie season, he struggled around the rim. He tried to draw foul calls, and he never got them. And he took a lot of ill-advised, difficult fadeaway 2-pointers that were almost 3-pointers. And right, his defense was the worst of his NBA career, and it's still right, spotty and overall relatively average, right? His second season rolls around, and there's talk that maybe he'll become the starter. There's talk of a camp battle between him and Jeremy Lamb. Jeremy Lamb was bigger, was playing the best basketball of his career, and also had a lot of history with Kemba Walker. So Jeremy Lamb won the minutes, and he continued to play a backup role. The Hornets had asked Malik to add some muscle and to get stronger around the rim. And you can see that he did that. His 2-point percentage jumped, and otherwise he looks really consistent with his stats. And he was sort of a sixth man, but didn't, he was like ninth or 10th off the bench, so his minutes stayed pretty low. Then his third season rolls around, and now Kemba Walker and Jeremy Lamb are gone. And the organization is faced with, like, what are they going to do with Malik? Are they ready to make him the starter? And a couple things happen where Terry Rozier becomes available, and he had a really good playoffs, and so they start thinking that they're going to go with Scary Terry, provide a little veteran leadership to this young group of guys. So Rozier comes in as the starting two guard, and Malik was not ready to be the point guard. And Devontae Graham was very, very good at filling in for Kemba and had a lot of Kemba-like skill sets as the distributor. And so Malik again was coming off the bench. But what I want to show you here is, even though he was coming off the bench, he started to piece together some really good games, right? So he had 20 points, 31, 13, and then just kind of a steady stretch of double figures. But then he had 19, 19, 17, 25, 25, 15, and all of a sudden the media is starting to make noise about, whoa, Malik is waking up, like he's here, like, Malik's ready to be the starter, and he gets his first start as a Hornet. It was amazing. He was almost 3 years in, and everyone that had touched the Hornets organization had started except for Malik, and he finally gets a start, and he's in the news about how he's turning the corner, but he does have a bad first game as a starter. But what was worse than that is now the NBA was interested in some drug tests and some examining who, you make this much noise and they're going to look at you. And he was doing some illegal drugs, and that was the end of his season. And it really painted the rest of his time at Charlotte. His fourth season rolls around, right? He's end of his rookie season, or his rookie contract. And if you look at his per 36, like his points are up at 20, all of his percentages are good. His 3-point percentage was over 40%. His rebounding and his assists were up. Like, he was actually playing pretty solid basketball, but his minutes were really low because the organization had already decided that they were done with him. He and the coach were definitely not communicating. They had a falling out, right? Malik felt like they had promised him some more opportunity than he ever got, and ultimately didn't like how he was being coached. So the Hornets did not sign him after the rookie contract. It was going to be like a $13 or $14 million to keep him for a fifth season. They were not going that route. Instead, the Hornets chose to go this route. They went with James Bouknight, who was caught passed out with a gun, with a DWI and some Doritos in his lap. You got Miles Bridges, who was beating his girlfriend or his wife. You had Kai Jones, who went crazy. You had Brandon Miller, who was supplying guns to murderers. You had Harrell, who had 3 pounds of pot in his car. And you got LaMelo Ball, who is driving recklessly. And so culturally, the Hornets were on the struggle bus, but everybody just wanted to blame Malik. And he came out of that without many offers. The Lakers offered him a vet minimum, and he jumped on it. And I remember that season where all the fans were down on him. They thought that he had sucked at Charlotte and that he wasn't going to be anything for them. They thought that Wayne Ellington and Kip Bazemore were going to get what's his name? Kendrick done. Oh gosh, right. They thought that's where the minutes were going to go. That Malik was going to be 12th man on the bench or on the roster, and right. And I remember being like, well, I think he's actually going to be important, and he was. So anybody who watched this Lakers season, right, it was championship aspirations. They had a bunch of Hall of Famers, and that's not what it was, right? They didn't win any preseason games. They started the season slow. It was a dumpster fire the whole season through. And the Lakers fans will tell you that the only good thing about that season was the breakout of Malik Monk and Austin Reeves, the two boys from Arkansas. And here you can see that Malik had 39 games off the bench and 37 games as a starter. And if you compare these stats, you can see that Malik gets an efficiency bump from starting. Right, he was starting, playing 32 minutes, 17 points. His three-point percentage was 42.2. Right, all of his stats were good. Lakers wanted him back, but they were in a pickle with Russell Westbrook, and until they figured out how to get off of Russ, they didn't have really a solution for how to keep Malik. They were hoping that $6 million would be enough because that's all they could offer, but it was not, right? So the Lakers were hoping that he'd come back for the $6 million. But the Kings, right? This is the one good thing that the Kings did. Monte McNair, right? He said, "Hey Malik, we can give you $9 million to come play with the Kings." And in Malik's mind, not only was it $3 million more, but it was an opportunity to go and start with De'Aaron Fox and to become one of the most dynamic backcourts in the NBA. Now, in less than 24 hours after Monte McNair made that great decision, he made another decision which was not a good one. Right? He brought Kevin Huerter to the Kings, who, guess what, is also a shooting guard, immediately crushing the Malik Monk Fox starting backcourt. So the season starts, first year at the Kings, and Malik is coming off the bench. Right, and his minutes sort of float around the 15 to 25 range. Right, and he's the backup to Kevin Huerter, a little bit of a sixth-man role, but then something happens at the 59th game of the season. Kevin Huerter gets injured I goofed that. Huerter gets into foul trouble early in the third against the Clippers. And now all of a sudden Malik is coming in a few minutes into the third. And he catches fire. Okay. And then, right, we know what happens here. This is one of the greatest NBA games of the last decade. The Kings and the Clippers go double overtime, 176-175. And Malik is the best player on the court that night and scores 45 points. Right, and afterwards you get the Malik Fox interview, and they're just like, "We have arrived. We are here. We're here to kick some ass in the NBA." And what happens the very next game? Malik is back into his bench role. Huerter's back into his starter role, and Malik gets just 20 minutes. And the next game he's down to 15. And as you see, looking down these game logs, nothing changed. Right, it was like the organization didn't witness the game. Right, it was just back to business as usual all the way until the end of the season, except until what happens, they get to the playoffs, right? And now all of a sudden your best players step up because they have to, because the defense is all of a sudden really good. So looking at our playoff log, right, at the end of the season, Malik is still only getting like 20 minutes a game. Playoffs arrive, and look at his minutes. Right. Yes, he's not starting, but his minutes are up around 30. Game 1, he scores 32 points, beat the Warriors. Right. Game 6, right, on the Warriors court, he scores 28 and convincingly beat the Warriors by 19. Okay, Malik was arguably the best Kings player in the series. Fox is the other person in that conversation, and there really isn't a third person, right? There, after you that, it's just like a long list of where the heck were these people in this important series. Maybe Keegan Murray shows up a little bit late in the series. So the season ends, and it's like, wow, the Kings have 2 stellar guards, and that's about it. What's the next season going to look like? Well, the next season rolls around, and Malik is still on the bench coming in behind Kevin Huerter. But Malik embraced the role, and as we look at his game logs, right, he didn't start a single game that season, but look at his production, right? Look at all these games where he scores 20 or more points. He should have won Sixth Man of the Year, except he does suffer an injury towards the end of the season. But he had a really good season as a sixth man, which unfortunately, sort of in a lot of people's minds, has enforced this idea that this is who he is. He is best as a sixth man, right? And it's because he can create his own shot and he can create for others. And to have that off the bench is a really wonderful thing. And for an organization that doesn't really have any wonderful things, right? That's one thing they just want to have. And then last year starts, right? And again, Monk is coming off the bench. It's not until game 21 that Malik gets his first start as a Sacramento King. Right, we basically have to go through 20 painful games of watching Kevin Huerter struggle. And then finally there's the breakthrough of giving Malik a chance. They lose to the Spurs by 2, and then they beat the Rockets, which was a big win. Lost to the Grizzlies, but then they beat the Spurs, beat the Jazz, beat the Pelicans. Malik and Fox are having a wonderful time as teammates. And then they go on a losing streak, which, right, the Lakers beat them three games out of 4. And all of a sudden, the coach is fired. And that takes us back to here. Right, the argument I want to make is that Malik is ready to start. He's been ready to start. The best pairing with him is Keon Ellis. Right, there's good data that suggests that you can pair him with Murray. That is a very strong group of 3. And then after that, it's like, okay, if it's Domas, well, then you got to find that 5th person who makes a really complete 5. That person is probably athletic and with defensive strengths and can block some shots, but also maybe spread the floor a little bit. Who is it? And the team can't find that person, right? And because they can't, right, they give up Fox and they go with the biggest name they can get. They bring in Levine, who definitely spoils the party for Malik. And now all of a sudden, because the offense was so jank last season, because DeMar ball is not the same thing as playing with pace, and the team had a confused identity. Now all of a sudden they think they need a point guard, and Dennis Schroeder, who has played on every team in the NBA, is here, and everybody's super excited about Dennis Schroeder and Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. We're going to be playing with pace and shooting open threes and making layups, and we're going to outcondition everybody. And all the while, Keon Ellis and Malik Monk are going to be coming off the bench, and it's a crime. All right, enjoy the season.